Usually when gamers think of good Western-themed games, Red Dead Redemption comes to mind. Maybe its prequel Red Dead Revolver comes up in conversation. But oftentimes, another game trails those two Rockstar masterpieces. Gun, a game created by Neversoft, also known as those Tony Hawk guys. You might think that a game named so simply would be a game that you would normally just pass on, thinking it might just be a blah type of game. But if that's what you would think, then you're missing out on a damn fine game. Gun has you take the shoes of a Colton White, a guy who starts out on an innocent hunting trip with his father. This doubles as your tutorial, so pay attention as you hunt deer and eventually save Ned, the father, from a grizzly attack. After all of this is done, you find yourself on a steamboat where Ned is talking to some woman about something she hid for him. She then gets murdered and a bunch of low-life criminals hop on board to search for that something. A bunch of bad shit happens and Ned is killed, with Colton now on a path of revenge to take down everyone responsible. Yeah, it's another revenge tale, but at least this one takes place in a different setting. The tale of the game puts you against a variety of foes that you'll need to shoot down. You may have the thugs in the beginning that will tend to grace your presence throughout many of the main story missions. You'll be attacking Native Americans in a few of the early stages. You'll have the main villain's private army contend with. And there's even a few animals such as wolves and bears here and there that will need to be disposed of. And with all this killing, there's a decent selection of weapons. And while there is money to be earned in the game, you actually won't spend this to get new firearms. Instead, you get your new shooting irons by completing main story missions. See, what happens is that Colt often gets his new guns from his fallen foes. He'll see that the boss of the mission has a better weapon, so he'll just procure it on the field and use that. You can switch guns if you really want to, but there's not really much reason to. Wait a minute. Colton. Colt. Gun. Oh, I see what they did there. Okay, Neversoft. Anyway, your guns do have limited ammo, with one exception. Your pistol will never run out. You do get a melee attack for those close encounters, but that pistol can be used for your ranged shots indefinitely. Granted, you will have to reload it, but it's still a nice gesture, since you'll probably run out of rifle ammo often. There's 4, well, I guess 5 if you include the pistol, different weapon types that you can cycle through. You'll have your standard long barrel rifle, which I use about 99% of the time. You can get a sniper rifle later in the game, although ammo is very limited with this. You can get a bow, which is mandatory in one mission, and if you want to try the hunting quests. And there's a shotgun, which I honestly felt was underpowered throughout the entire game, so I never really bothered using it. Each of these is selectable by holding down the circle button and then pressing the direction on the D-pad that designates the firearm you want to use. It's a very simple system to use. But one thing that did feel kind of strange was the button that you use to reload, L3. Granted, if you're out of ammo and need to reload, trying to shoot will reload as well. But if you want to reload manually, and you still have half your ammo in the gun you're using, you will have to press L3. You'll get used to it, but it still feels kind of strange. This wouldn't be a proper Western game if you didn't have a way to do a quick draw, and Gun does give you that opportunity. In quick draw mode, Colton will quickly bring out his pistol, go into a first person view, and you'll be able to shoot with infinite ammo at your enemies until you either bring him out of quick draw or that meter drains. You'll need at least a bit of juice in this quick draw meter if you want to use this. It's charged just by killing your foes, doing headshots, and I think one other method, but I can't think of it at the moment. It is a nice way to quickly take down your enemies. Quick draw isn't the only time you ever go in this first person mode. By pressing R3, you'll voluntarily go into it, but only if you're shooting the rifle, bow, or sniper rifle. This can be really helpful when you're trying to take down a long range target, and I found myself using it a lot more than I had anticipated. So what do you do with this cash you earn? There are 3 stores that you can encounter and exchange for what essentially becomes stat upgrades. Most items that you can see can be bought, and then an upgraded feature of it will take its place. Also, most of these things that you buy increase the abilities of your guns. You'll want to definitely take advantage of these, since many of them turn out to be proper upgrades, speed boosts, and such. If you're running low on cash, there are plenty of side quests to perform, in addition to the main story. The main stuff doesn't typically award you money though, and instead just gives you new guns and max health increases. The side quests, however, usually give you some pocket change, in addition to another interesting feature of Gun, stat boosts. The game has an RPG stat feel, in which Colton has several attributes that can be buffed. While playing the game, you may not notice it right away, but near the end of the game when you have better guns, paid upgrades, and stat boosts, you'll see yourself blazing through your enemies with much more ease than how you originally started the game. I guess I should have mentioned that the game has an open world approach. You don't have to start the main quest right away, and it can instead explore the world, looking for gold patches to earn an easy $10, or work on the side stuff to make the main stuff easier. The world isn't terribly large though, and can be traversed in a matter of minutes. There is a map, and it'll tell you everything you can do. And although there isn't really a fast travel system, you can immediately warp to the main story mission at any time, although that'll force you to begin it right away. So if you get lost without a horse, you can either walk, or decide to just continue the story. Speaking of lost, it's hard to do in regards to your objectives. The game will constantly remind you what your current task is, so you won't have to pause the game to find out. I actually like this feature. The graphics and sound of the game do a phenomenal job keeping the proper atmosphere. You'll hear your standard Western themes when riding around your horse, and gunshots feel appropriate to the weapon you're using, complete with that generic ricocheting bullet sound that you hear in all the Western movies. In addition, the voice acting is pretty good, with a few small hiccups, but nothing that really brings the score of the game down. I only really have one complaint about Gun: the hunting missions. I get it, the game wants you to take down the animal specifically, but it really shouldn't take 4 arrows or a flaming shot to down. From what I read online, the game expects you to keep edging close and will tell you when to let the arrow fly. But for fuck's sake, this many arrows should at least stumble the animal. Besides, wouldn't a wolf see you creeping towards it on a barren plain like this? Bullshit. I honestly never completed one of these hunting side quests, and that's the only thing keeping me from fully completing the game. I will say that the final boss of the game is extremely frustrating. I was originally playing this game a few years back, not for a review, but just for completion's sake, and got to it, but got frustrated on this guy, who happens to enjoy throwing dynamite at you in a cavern where there's gas that explodes when lit on fire. Pro tip, use this against the boss. But anyway, you have to have patience, which I tend to lack. But I stuck with it, and at one of my deaths, the game locked up. And then I remembered it's been about an hour and a half since I saved it. Well, shit. I learned my lesson playing Gun for this review, and I was able to persevere and beat the bastard to a somewhat decent ending. But it was still a test in patience and not one of my favorite boss battles. It's a shame that Gun is an underlooked game, as I really enjoyed it both times that I've played it. It's got a decent length, especially if you opt to complete all the side stuff. The RPG stat system is fun to use, and it's nice that your guns are given to you automatically. The only thing I would have liked to see is a larger map, but that's just a small thing. Would I love to see a Gun 2? Absolutely. Will it happen? Probably not. Will I play Gun again? Probably at some point down the road, because that wolf must die. Final score? 9 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.